Welcome to Anaheim, and welcome to Data and Diversity, how to use data to combat bias in hiring, promoting, rating, and retention. And a special welcome to those who are tuning in to the live stream. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Leslie Miley. Leslie?
Good afternoon, everyone. And for everyone watching at home, good afternoon. I always wanted to say that. This is the first time I've had an opportunity to say that. This looks like a full crowd. I'm going to ask if you can dim the light so I can get a picture of everyone. Can we do that? Maybe? No? Thank you. Oh, still really bright. Thank you. Can you all get in so I can get everybody? I know. I'm actually going to tweet this out right now. So if you're following the hashtag, you just got that. Thank you for the lights. I appreciate that. We'll wait for everyone else to come in. I'm not going to call anybody a straggler because this is a huge place. So for those of you who are tracking your fitness, you're probably getting all your steps in at this conference. I think I've already gotten like 9,000, and I haven't done anything. So I know somebody here's like, I got 15,000. This is a fun time, and I say that ironically. And I think in tech specifically, I think in industry in general, and even worldwide, when it comes to diversity and inclusion, I think Steve Bannon was talking about this at a forum The Economist had in London. And to hear Steve Bannon talk about diversity is really an interesting, kind of like where we've gone. Steve Bannon is talking about diversity. And so I'm kind of at the forefront of this in a lot of different ways, in that I'm in tech, and I think most of you probably noticed I'm African American. And if you haven't now, you know. So and a little bit about me. Before I go into me, I do want to say thank you to LinkedIn and Microsoft for having me here, for sponsoring this and giving me a forum to have this conversation. Prior to showing up here today, I was the CTO of the Obama Foundation, and really had an awesome time seeing an organization that's really trying to have conversations of getting everyone involved civically, everyone involved in their communities, everyone involved in government. And regardless of your political leanings, regardless of your ethnicity or your gender, or your sexuality, it was just about get involved, stay involved. And that informs a little bit of this conversation. Before that, I've been engineering director at Google, at Slack, Twitter engineering manager. I started the first engineering team that was specifically designed to combat abuse, harassment, and trolling on Twitter. Imagine how fun that job was. However, it goes to what we talk about in inclusion, because who better to put in that role than people who have experienced harassment and trolling and the hatred that comes with being on social media. And I've been on social media, I've been on the internet since the 90s. And my name is Leslie. And when I was on AOL back in the day, for those of you who remember AOL back in the day, I'd show up in a chat room with the name Leslie, and all these men would send me the most vile things because they thought I was a woman. And there are many women in here who probably have had that experience and who are still having that experience. So it really informed a lot of my work there. What we're talking about today is something that has impacted me personally and professionally, and has impacted me for the majority of my career. I like the doors making a great sound too. Just like it's. So spoiler alert, bias is everywhere. It's in everything we do, and some of it is good, most of it's not. And it's crazy because bias is in your applicant tracking systems. Bias is in your performance management systems. And bias is in your leadership opportunities. Who gets that? Who gets leadership opportunities? So in your applicant tracking system, who gets the call back is biased. Recruiters, I think, are amazingly simply motivated, right? And that's from my engineering-centric viewpoint, which is get people in the door. Get people in the door that your customers want to see. So they're going to bias towards what their customer wants to see, which is going to be biased for whatever the customer wants to see. It could be culturally biased. It could be, against older workers. So if you see somebody whose resume has something from the 90s in it, they may not get pushed to a team. So you probably see that a lot. And no one ever says anything. They just kind of take it and run with it. Back before we had all this technology, and before there was LinkedIn and you had pictures, you just sent your resume and somebody would call, and I would get a call, and it would be from a recruiter or a sourcer. And first they thought they were going to be talking to a woman, because it's Leslie Miley. And I'm like, this is Leslie? And I've gotten it, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it's who I am. And then, for those of you who go to movies and saw Black Klansman, I sound a little bit like Ron Stallworth. So I had my, or who saw Sorry to Bother You, I put on my white voice. And so I would have these conversations, answer the questions, and then I would show up. And they would never be expecting me, right? Especially the person at the front desk. They see Leslie Miley, they'd expect a woman. And then I'm not a woman, so, and then they would send an email or call, and then, hiring manager John Smith would come out and do this. And then go and talk to the receptionist. It's like, oh, Leslie. And I'm like, yeah, you didn't expect this, did you? Come with us. So that bias is everywhere. The problem today is that it's become weaponized. And when I say it's become weaponized, not in necessarily a bad way. It's become weaponized because it's so broad now and it's so fast. We don't even get an opportunity to respond to it before it shows up. We don't get a chance to respond to it before it starts impacting so many other things. So I wanted to talk a little bit about applicant tracking systems because I have experience with so many. And for those of you who use JobVite, I'm sorry. I know people say I shouldn't do that. There's probably people from JobVite in the room. If anyone from JobVite is in here and you want to talk to me about why I have that opinion, please see me after this. I've used JobVite for about 6 years, and I just have so many. I can help you improve your product. Seriously, I can. I'll do this for free because I'll probably end up at another job where I have to use it, and I just want to make sure that it's all about me. Almost every ATS system claims to use AI today in some way, shape, or form. And to me, it's like what I just talked about. What's in a name? It's not just my name. It's the name of the school. If you didn't hear about a school, you may not train your model, or you just train your model to over-index on certain schools. It's the name of a company. I've been at companies that will remain unspoken, Twitter, that actually would not hire or would deprioritize candidates from certain companies. Tech companies. It's like, if you're from Oracle, you're not a good engineer. That was written there, that lives in a document somewhere on Twitter's G drive. No, it does. I know, I saw it. I was like, really? I knew some great people from Oracle. Names of projects or technologies. Who is going to put in their ATS system that they want somebody who knows COBOL or Fortran? You're not. And you know what you've just done? You've just eliminated everyone from a certain era who may have put that on there. And and trust me, there are some Fortran programmers today who are getting paid a lot of money because there are banks who still have systems on this, and they'll pay anything to keep their systems up and running. And this is a true statement. So people want to bias for what they think are good, but what they don't know is that they're missing so much. They're missing things like grit. If you're still programming in Fortran or COBOL, there's a lot of grit and perseverance there. You have stuck with something for a long time. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. And something that I know as an engineer is that if you have learned one or two languages, you can learn any language. And so if somebody has done a role in a company that you haven't heard of, just because you haven't heard of it, don't devalue it. It doesn't mean that you want to over-index on it, but you also don't want to eliminate people for it. I look for things like community college. Like, did someone go to a community college? Because we don't know people's life choices. We don't know what was happening earlier in their life that they decided to go to a community college. Maybe they didn't have the money. Maybe they couldn't do the commute. Maybe they had a sick parent or a sick sibling. We overemphasize so much on privilege and status that we build this into the systems. And as you're training your ATS systems, you're training them for what you know, which is inherently biased. And recognizing that bias and making sure that you don't deploy it at scale is so central to everything that you're doing right now. So I look for anti-patterns. I look for community involvement. I look for civic involvement. I try to always optimize for what I'm missing. And I think it's really important that you ask that question. And sometimes the only way you can ask that question is to bring other people in the room who have those experiences. So if you know, and everyone has people like this in their organizations where they know the person who went to community college or didn't go to college, who's self-taught or who did something different. Bring them in and ask them. They can bring a lot to the table. Performance management. This is one of my favorites. And it's one of my favorites because it's an area where if you get in the door, it's almost like these hurdles that I feel like have been put in front of me in my career. So I got in the door. I got in the door because I had a white woman name. And I sounded like Ron Stallworth. And then I was able to impress them during the interview process. And then comes my first performance review. And here's something that is just really, it overwhelms me every time I see this stat. 59% of men's reviews contain critical feedback. 88% of women's reviews contain critical feedback. I mean, it's like, what are we doing? Are women really that much worse? No, because words matter, and we have a tendency to use stronger words for people we don't have affinity for. Happens to me all the time. Aggressive? I've been called aggressive. I know a lot of women who have been called aggressive. I don't think they're aggressive. They just are aggressive towards people who aren't used to having women speak to them in that manner. Pushy? Abrasive? Brash. I actually was going through a review from 10 years ago. I keep my reviews because they're funny sometimes. Well, they're funny because sometimes you're like, was I really that bad or was I really that good? And so I'm reading this and literally my manager is calling me brash and abrasive and aggressive and pushy. And I'm like, I'm just trying to do my job. And I'm doing what people are telling me to do, but I'm being diminished every day. I mean, we take the feedback. I take that feedback, and I try to moderate who and what I am. And for years, I kept trying to take that edge off. I kept trying to smooth it out, sand it down, and over the years, as I was working in a succession of companies, I went from Google to Apple to a small company called ModCloth to Twitter. And by the time I got to Twitter, I thought I had like cracked the code. I thought I'd gotten rid of the aggressive, pushy, abrasive, brash white woman, Leslie. And what happened was that I had sublimated my blackness so much, I had sublimated who and what I was so much, that my first review at Twitter was that I wasn't aggressive, that I didn't take the initiative. I'm like, I can't win for losing. I've turned into a white woman and now I'm getting this. And that is actually what happens. And there are many women in here who've probably gone and the same thing. You're not even over-indexing, you're just trying to fit in. And when I saw that, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I don't know. So I talked to some people, and there were some other events at that time, but I talked to some people and someone told me that I just need to be myself and let that carry the day because I'm qualified and I will be happier because of it. He didn't say I would be more successful. He didn't say I would get more raises. He didn't say I'd get promoted. He said I'd be happier. And he was right. So that statistic about women getting 89% critical feedback, they not only received more criticism, it was less constructive, meaning it was less actionable. It was more personal. For example, the feedback that men received was mostly geared towards suggestions to develop more skills. Hey, go and learn how to have hard feedback. Hey, go take a management class. So things like, it would have been extremely helpful if you had gone deeper into the details to help move an area forward. Women received similar constructive feedback, but it also included personality criticism like, watch your tone. Stop being so judgmental. I mean, it's amazing. I just was interviewing because you have to keep your interview skills up. And I mean, I was the CTO of the Obama Foundation. I built bots for Twitter to find bots. I have some technical skill. I'm sitting in front of an Eng VP who knows my work, knows what I've done, has it in front of me, questions my technical ability. It's like, I'm not sure if you're technical enough for this role. It was for a music company. This is not a hard problem to solve. I know how to stream music, I know how to do recommendations, I understand this. I get this unfair criticism because the moment he sees me, he sees my race sit in the chair before I do, and he assumes that that race is not technical enough. Doesn't assume that I'm not technical enough. He has that data in front of him. He actually had years worth of my data in front of him. And yet, that was the first question he asked. He didn't ask how come my NPS scores for my teams were 98%. Right? He didn't ask how did I diversify my team and hire out of like a year's worth of hires, 50% were underrepresented in women. He didn't ask any of that, right? He wanted to know how technical I was, even though my team and my teams that he had insight into were doing really well. So something that I think all of you can do is using your data from your performance evaluations to uncover bias. It's actually really simple. There are word lists out there that you can subscribe to that will tell you whether this is a biased word, whether it's used more towards women, whether it's used more towards men, whether it denotes aggressiveness or pushiness or whatever. You can actually use that, and you can train your models to find that in your performance evaluations. Those of you at large enough companies that have years and years and years of data and probably petabytes of data, you can go through this and you can pull up some amazing insights. And you can find, in no uncertain terms, without looking for her or she, or he or him, you will find at a high level of precision the reviews that are for women and the reviews that are for men. This is a shocking indictment of our performance review process because that's bias in and of itself. Just from the words that people use to describe, just from the criticisms that they put out. So words really matter. And this is what got me. I found this is an eye chart, so I'm warning you for those of you who are like me, can't see anymore. Managers use more positive words to describe men and more negative ones to describe women. This is 81,000 performance evaluations across a host of industries. And the blue is positive, and the orange is not. And I look at this every day, and I'm like, wow, we are just up against it. We don't want this, but we do it. And these are the words that you can use in your performance evaluation systems. These are the models you should train. And you need to get this data in front of as many people as you can so they can understand what's happening at work. So they can understand, if it's like, we don't understand why women don't get promoted. We don't understand why people of color don't get promoted. Here you go. This is why, because when you put these words in there, this is a drip campaign against your most marginalized people. And it happens every review cycle. And it happens year in and year out. And people who are doing amazing work have these words put in their reviews. People who are committed to your company and who are your biggest supporters have these words in there. And they don't get promoted. They don't get raises, they don't get equity, and they don't get recognition. And yet they continue to come in every day and do the best work in your organization. And when we do recognize this, and we do, and then many companies take active steps to remove this. But what we don't do is we don't repair. And by that, I mean, we don't fix the people, we fix the problem. So now you have the walking wounded, is what I call, in organizations who have been damaged by these words. That yes, things have gotten better for them. They're no longer being damaged. But the economic opportunity, the career advancement they didn't see. So I don't know how to fix that. I think that's what all of y'all do. So fix it, please. It would be great. For me too, because but the thing is that these pockets of bias exist. You can use your tools to find them. But there's something that doesn't come up a lot. I'm going to come to performance management, but I want to spend a moment on this, which is accountability. You're going to find pockets. If you're a large enough organization, you're going to find entire organizations that are biased. And that's where accountability comes in. And accountability isn't telling the head of the organization about it. It's actually coming up with metrics to track to see that they get better and holding them accountable. If you don't do that, this is all for nothing. And I've seen it at scale where people come up with grandiose plans, they do all of this data collection, they say they're going to do this, and then they don't hit any of their targets. No one's held responsible. And if you want any more of that, we can just look at the yearly diversity dance that tech companies like to do to put their data out there where nothing has changed for 4 years, but no one has lost a job. No one has been fired, no one has been reprimanded. They just keep trotting the same data out and saying they're going to get better. People need to be held accountable. I don't necessarily think they need to be fired. I don't think they need to be marginalized, but they have to be held accountable. That's the only way it's going to change. So, a little bit about performance management. Some final words. I actually don't know what this slide is going to say. I did it first thing this morning. I don't think I had coffee. So for those of you who may get offended with 4 and 5 letter words, no, I'm just kidding. I would not do that. A couple of things you don't want to do. You don't want to stack rank in your performance management system. Don't do it. It never ends up well for women and people of color. We always get marginalized. If you don't believe me, run the data yourself. Cut it across intersectionally and look at it yourself. You'll see. Don't do a forced distribution. Hate this, right? It's like you do all this work, you get all your managers, you're doing this work, you sit down, you stack rank everybody, you've got this nice, these people are up here, these people are over here, and then somebody's like, hey, it says we can only have this many people here, we can only have this many people here. Don't do that. If you are thinking about putting something like that in place, please don't. Once again, the same thing happens. People on the edges get pushed. So the people who are going to be who you think are your high performers, who are probably going to look like the majority of people in your company, will get pushed higher. The people who are on the edge of the lower performers will get pushed lower, and those will generally be your women and your people of color. And my favorite is publish your banned words and phrases. Something that we did at Twitter, we had a list of banned questions that you could not ask during interviews because the candidates got a hold of the interview questions and were sharing them with each other. Which I'm like, of course you want banned questions, because if somebody comes in and doesn't know it, that actually says something. But when you find words and phrases that people are using that are marginalizing your most vulnerable groups of people, you have to ban them and you have to make it public. You can't keep it and just say, hey, we're just going to give the managers and have them deliver the message. No, it should be on a website somewhere where people can go and look at it. Like we could look at the banned questions at Twitter and knew not to ask those. You put those out there. It serves a couple of purposes. The first purpose it will serve is that it will tell people that you're tracking it. The second purpose is that people will start having the kind of conversations they need to have around why these words are not good, how these words diminish other people. So I thought about this, and I've heard this so many times, like the problem's in the pipeline. We cannot differ because the problem's in the pipeline. And I'm like, everybody says, no, it's not, it's actually, and I'm like, actually people are right, but they're looking at the wrong pipeline. This is another eye chart, but this is the pipeline of what happens when you look at the corporate pipeline and where people end up over time. So isn't it funny how white men start out at 36% and then end up at 67% at the top of the chart? That's your pipeline, and that's where your problem is. It covers everything I just talked about. This is in your applicant tracking system. This is in your performance management system. This is in your leadership development. This is in everything. And I see this, and I'm like, wow, that is just amazing. You know, you can look at companies' long-term promotion and just see how people just fall out. I mean, women of color are just like, they're just gone, right? They're just like, they're gone. So as you are looking at your systems, and as you are building them out, and as you're refining them, understand that the pipeline isn't the people coming in, it's the people being promoted within. It's the people being given the opportunities. And understand that to change that is going to take a lot of courage. So I'm thinking hard about this one. Because I always think about leadership opportunities. And this has been my life the last 4 years, and a lot of my friends' lives. And I call it why we can't have nice things. This is why we can't have nice things. We do this work, we're asked to do this work, we're expected to do this work, and we are penalized. Female and non-white managers who hired either a female or a non-white applicant were rated less effective than when they hired a white male applicant. There was no significant difference in the ratings of white male managers, no matter who they hired. Can't win for losing. So I came into an organization, and you know they pretty much know who I am. I have a resume, I have a Twitter handle, and they were like, "We're so happy to have you here. You're a great engineering leader. You know, we know you are very passionate about diversity. We want you to do this work." I'm like, "Great." So I do the work, and as I said, I had half of my hires in a year are women and underrepresented. I'm like, and trust me, I had to like pound on recruiting. I worked with legal, I worked with our HR VP, I worked with everybody to try to do this. Well, somebody got pissed. I don't know why. Actually, they got fired. That's why they got pissed. So they said they got fired because they didn't hit their diversity targets. And that kicked off an employee investigation, and I get pulled into it. And at the end of the investigation, the allegations were that I was biased against white and Asian men. I'm like, well, look at my group. I think that says otherwise, but that's fine. So they do the investigation, and they say, we did our investigation, and there is no bias. Like, thank you for speaking the obvious. And that you did all the right things, but your words made people feel uncomfortable. And as a leader, you should be more aware of that. So because people felt so uncomfortable, we're going to put this letter in your file that says that if we get another complaint, you could be fired for doing this work. And I sat there and I'm like, are you serious? This is what you're doing. They're like, well, yes, it made people really uncomfortable. How did it make people uncomfortable? Well, they thought you were biased. I'm like, no one ever says this when you hire a group of white and Asian men. When you have an entire group that's a monoculture, when you can go and look around, when you look at your C-suite and they're all white and Asian men, that makes me uncomfortable. No one's getting in trouble for doing that, I can assure you. And that, I think, is where the problem is. So many diversity programs are focusing on bias reduction. And what happens when you do that is that it actually makes it more hostile, because people feel like it's being forced on them. People feel like they're being made to do something that they don't see any value in. And instead of going back to the organization and talking about it, they put the responsibility and the blame on the people doing the work and the people who are more vocal about doing the work. And I call that the diversity tax. And it's a tax I pay every day I go into work. It's a tax I pay because I get asked about it in interviews. I get asked about it from people who are like, I read one of your tweets and I'd like to, and I'm like, I'm not talking about my tweets. I don't talk about my tweets at work, they're my tweets. I don't send them to people, and like, it says nothing about where I work. It's always where I worked. It's never where I work. So I'm just like, it's me, that's what I do. And I want all of you to start thinking about how to do more than just bias reduction. You have to start thinking about how you do transformative work in your organization so that people understand, A, how they're benefiting from systems that are systemically discriminating against other people. That is what's happening in your systems, because your systems were not designed for inclusion. Your systems were not designed to bring people along. They were designed for a certain result, which is to bring the same type of people that created the systems, which are generally going to be people who don't look like me. So, sorry, going back the wrong way. Fortune favors the bold. I think the Klingon said that. Does anybody know? Was that a revenge is a dish best served cold? Does anybody ever know what that means? I had to look it up. It's Shakespeare, for those of you who are. But fortune favors the bold. Changing systems and processes is hard. People have to be transformed as well. You can change your systems all you want, but you have to change the people. And that also means that you have to let some people go, because some people won't be down with the change. And that's okay too. Fortune also favors the brave, because to do this work, you have to be brave. I have had so many uncomfortable conversations with people, and I consider it part of who I am to have that conversation, but it still makes me uncomfortable. I've had to leave work after having some uncomfortable conversations. But be brave, don't walk away. Stand up when you see someone being marginalized. Stand up when you know something is going wrong. And do it at the moment. The thing I hated is like standing up in a meeting saying something and being told, like, we're not gonna lower the diversity, but the bar for diversity, which I've heard, right? And everyone, like, room full of people like this, hear me ask a question, get that answer, and then I have to sit down and feel very, very bad. And then everybody comes up to me afterwards and says, man, that sucked. I'm like, you think? Where was the support at the time? You have to support your people in the moment, verbally, vocally, and in public. You need to be transparent. People say they don't want to push out data and expose the data because it's going to make them look bad. It already does. It's all in your data. You have it. Your women, your minorities are leaving at higher rates. They get promoted at lesser rates. What more bad data do you need? Just put it out there. People know. Oracle had this great reason for not releasing their EEO1 data. They said it would enable other companies to identify their African American and women employees and take them and recruit them. And I'm like, so if anybody from Oracle is in here, sorry, I just called you out. It's in the reveal. You can read the article as well. Do better. Just do better. Set targets and hold people accountable to those targets. Don't put them out there and then never hold anyone accountable, because people will understand that and understand there's no accountability and they won't work on it. They'll throw some things out there and then they'll just move on because they have no accountability. There are so many people in organizations right now who have no accountability to the data that they're saying the target that they set. This is it. Hold your leaders accountable. Hold them accountable. Have them hold themselves accountable. I was in an organization where it was very, very diversity focused, very inclusion focused. And then we hired a white male engineering VP. And then the CTO stood up in front of everybody and put the org chart up that was all white men in leadership and said, yeah, I know it looks bad. Moving on. And I'm like, where's the accountability? So it looks bad. How come you get to do that, but when I say it looks bad, I get fired? Actually, when I say it looks good, I get fired. That's what happens. And communicate fearlessly to build trust. And I stole that from Twitter. It used to be one of their core values. I'm not sure if they still have core values. And look who's hey, come on. I mean, Alex Jones didn't get banned until he yelled at Jack. He had so if you have any values, your values should have gotten him off long before that. So anyway, so communicate fearlessly. I think it's important when people hear what you say and you know that it's not going to, that you can't manage the message, you can't massage it, you can't make it feel or look good. I know it resonates with me. I think it resonates with other people. Some people don't like it. I'm going to give you an example of me communicating fearlessly one day. I thought it was funny. It didn't go over that well. I was at a site, and the site, most of the people had moved out of the building, and my group was the only one left. And it was a really big building. There was like 15 people in a building that was supposed to have about 250. And of course, you know, the facilities become a little more degraded when there aren't people there and you don't have normal cleaning service, you don't have normal plant service. And so we were going to a conference room, and I was eating something, and I threw the remainder in the trash. And I remember then I came out, and I looked in the trash just on the way out, and it was gone. And it was empty, and I'm like, I know we don't have janitorial service. I think a rat came in and took that. And I asked him, like, do you have rats? He's like, yeah, man, there have been rats everywhere since the other group moved out. I'm like, wow. And then we're walking around the building, there are dead plants everywhere because no one was watering the plants. So this is my team. Their morale is being hit. We're having a meeting with the real estate folks, and I was really I was just mad. I was mad that the people who are in my group have rats in the building, have dead plants. The food in the kitchens was rotting. It was a terrible, terrible situation for them. Yeah, free food rotting is terrible, right? But still. And so we get there, and we're in a conference room with a dead plant. I mean, this plant it's dried, it's desiccated, the leaves are falling off. And I was just so mad. And so we're meeting the real estate people. I pick up the plant, I put it on the table. And so when they come on the screen, the camera's just looking at this dead plant. Communicate fearlessly. I'm like, this is unacceptable. Here's how unacceptable it is. Everything changed after that. Except for, in my review, this person said that that was rude, unnecessary, and uncalled for, and it really damaged the hard work that their team had been doing to support my team in a building with dead plants and rats. So that came up in my review. I was just like, really? There was a dead plant, and there was rats, and it was terrible. So I have some of my sources here. I can share this out afterwards so that everybody can get access to it. I wanted to take some questions, and I know we have a couple of minutes. I think I have time for a couple of questions. If anybody have questions, anybody have comments, if anybody, there are microphones out there. If we can bring the lights up, so like, thank you, and maybe turn these down so that no questions? Oh, okay.
We have time for about 2 questions.
Leslie, good to see you. And a little loud, but you speak a lot about holding accountable, and we as recruiters, HR, are susceptible to that tax, that diversity tax, a little bit heavier than most. So from you, I want to hear a little bit more about what would be a baby step to get an engineering leader or the right leaders to be inspired to hold each other or hold their leaders accountable for the data that we would show them that would be their own people that they're looking at that may not give them a reason to be like, why should we improve the numbers?
I mean, I guess it's the right thing to do. It makes you a better human being. It's ethically right. It's morally right. I mean, I don't know how much more we can have this conversation. I'm not having that conversation with any of you like, you have better business outcomes. If you don't know this, I can't help you, right? I shouldn't have to say that. What I should say is having a diverse workforce makes your employees happier. It improves all of your satisfaction scores. Every metric that you have that is a positive metric is increased. People will say, well, it's harder to get along. Yes, all of that's true as well in the beginning. But as teams grow, as they learn, as they forge bonds, it's just all good. And I think that's what you want to use. These are the conversations you want to have. You can't get people to do it because it's the right business outcome. And here's the danger of that. Because when you do that, the moment the business goes downhill, those are the programs that will first get cut. So you make it, this is about being better people. This is about being, just good people. Sorry.
You've been talking a lot about what big businesses can do, especially ones that have a lot of data. What about small companies, and in particular, small companies in areas that are not highly diverse to begin with?
That's a good question. I mean, and if you're growing, I think the thing is, you say you want to start setting the tone early, because as your team grows, if you start off with a monoculture, it's going to be very hard to break. So my suggestion would be to tell people that from the very beginning. If you're in a small industry, or if you're at a small company and you're looking to grow, always prioritize it. And in some cases, I think it's important. I saw you take the picture of yes, you take it. How many people noticed that didn't say blank? All right, that's. So I think I get one more question. One more. Run.
Hi, I just wanted to know what the best way to ask our ATS system, I guess we wouldn't ask what the biases are, but what's the best way to determine that? Is it as simple as just asking, or how can we get that information, or what's your advice?
It depends on the system, but I think asking like, what are we using to train our ATS system? And starting to have that conversation, and ask are we worried about bias in our systems, and if so, what are we doing for it? That's the first question that I ask, and most of the time you get, there's no bias, it's a machine. I'm like, next. Next question, please. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I have 18 seconds. I want to say thank you all for coming and listening. Thank you all for laughing at my bad jokes and for the great questions. Have a great Talent Connect, and I'll be hanging out